Joe. I'm your host, Joe Van Kampen. Today we're chatting with Miriam Ali, the team lead for our enterprise solutions. Miriam, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So Miriam, what do you know about the people that are actually coming through to the websites? What can we find out about that?
Yeah, so we can actually find out a lot about who is visiting your website via Google Analytics and market research in general. So typically we find that it's above the age of 45 to 65, and they actually tend to be women. Women are usually the main decision makers in what happens with their parents and where they go. We can also find out, where they're located, their basic demographics, the area that they're in. We can find out their interests. We can see how many times they're actually visiting your website and things like that. That's the typical demographic. We also know that there is the young senior. So people that are above 65, they're looking for areas where they can be with a community of people in that same age demographic and things like that. So usually we can read a lot about a person via the website.
That's
a little bit
awesome.
weird, but yeah.
So one of the main things that you and your team focus on is conversion rate.
Yeah.
So what are the types of things that you look at when you're taking a look at maybe a website that we either are taking on or a website that you're developing or anything like that? What are those components that you try to analyze to make sure that they're converting at the highest rate?
Yeah, so the main thing is that it's for the user experience. In the past, there have been a lot of keyword stuffing, ways to work around Google, but Google's actually really smart in knowing how an actual person likes to use a website. So there's multiple things. We want a lot of CTAs, so call to actions throughout your website, so that at any point, if someone wants to make the decision to leave and book a tour with you, at any point they can. We want your navigation to follow you down. So again, the same thing. If someone is on your assisted living page, we want them to be able to book a tour at any point, wherever they're reading the content. We also want the content to sound like a person's written it. That's really important. We don't want it to sound robotic. We want it to sound friendly, welcoming. Some other things that we do also look at is the imagery. Is it speaking to the user? We also look at responsiveness. So actually, funnily enough, what happens is most of the time people will visit your website on mobile. They'll be, doing something. They're on the train. They're doing something else. They're going through. They're seeing on a website. Mobilely, if it functions well. So if it's not looking properly on your phone, then they'll tend to leave a lot faster. And if it does look good, they'll actually come and visit your website later on their desktop. So we want to make sure at all angles that it looks good, or else they'll just never visit your website again.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. In your experience, what's the biggest, knowledge gap that a senior living community has when it comes to their marketing or when it comes to their website and the usability specifically?
So in the past, we knew that people would find their information via their sales representative. So they would want to talk to someone in sales to understand more. With now this digital age, people actually want to avoid the salesperson as much as possible and gather all of their information online. So that's why your website is very important. We want to make sure that there is blogs that are speaking to potentially the issues that they're facing with their loved ones. We want to make sure that there's as much information as possible that is in a digestible way. Because they're going to call you once they've made that decision. Once they've visited your website repeatedly over the months, then they'll make that call. So it's really important to have everything laid out on your website. We want specifically to call out your amenities, what makes you actually different. A lot of communities offer dining, but what about your dining is better? Yeah. Is it the experience? Is your staff friendly, or is it the quality of food? What about your amenities? What about you?
What are those major differentiating factors?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So yeah.
So when chatting about differentiating factors, obviously when we build out the website, one of the things that we really try to heavily focus on is making sure that all the call them stakeholders that would have any decision making on the website as part of that process. What should those people know before coming into the process? What should they have prepared, and who are those stakeholders generally?
So typically what we would say is, for your stakeholders, we want you to kind of take your opinion of a vast majority of people that work in your community. So we want your sales executive there. We want to know the main stakeholders, your CEO, CFO, who are the main ones that will call and say, yep, this looks good. you also probably want the opinion of the staff, the people that daily interact with the seniors at the community. So we want to make sure those opinions are said.
Yeah.
And ideally you should meet prior so that you're all aligned on what you actually want. It'd be great too if before you come and hopefully get a website with us, is that you think about what's the feeling you want to convey when someone goes on your website. Do you want it to feel homey, natural? Do you want it to feel luxurious and different? What are the things that make you different and that feeling you want someone to just speak to them right when they land there?
Kind of like if your brand was a person, what would they be like?
Exactly.
And what kind of persona do you want to play out there?
Yeah, no, exactly. And, like I said, talking about your differentiating factors, really dig into what are they and why they are that way. A major thing too is your gallery and floor plans. That's actually the most visited page on a website. That's usually how someone will make the decision. They'll land on your homepage. They'll immediately go to the galleries and floor plans, see if it looks like a community that they want their parents to be in. And then if that's the case, then they'll go through the rest of the website. So you want to make sure that you know your descriptions for your floor plans, have good imagery. If you have a tour, it'd be great. Anything like that would be very
cool.
helpful.
Very cool. Where do you feel the biggest challenges for you and your team in the website process?
I would say it kind of all blends together for what we talked about so
Yeah.
far. Not knowing your amenities and services and at what level they are offered, and what is the care that's been taken for the seniors that are at the community. If you don't understand that, then it can be really hard for us to pull that information from you. Again, meeting prior with all of your stakeholders to understand what's the vision that you want. Sometimes we have a bit of a hard time when all the stakeholders are together, but they haven't discussed prior. So we're hearing many different opinions and there's not as much alignment. So alignment is the biggest thing that makes our job the easiest to do. Yeah.
So the easiest way to combat those challenges is, in reality, just having the right stakeholders in the room and having them have a meeting ahead of time so that they're all prepared for those conversations.
Yeah.
And really, at the end of the day, what that allows us to do is, if I'm understanding correctly, is create that website out, build everything up, and then give them a finalized product that they should all be very excited about, rather than create that finalized product and then have to make major design changes or major content changes or any of those different components.
Yeah, 100%. And I would say a big challenge too is your website is a living, breathing thing. We want it, of course, to be as perfect as possible in what you wanted. But what we see is because of that perfection, and if there's a lot of stakeholders, it can hold up when we actually launch your website. And we want to launch your website as soon as possible so we can get those analytics, see like what in your area, what are people looking for, what are the key terms. And like I said, it's a living, breathing thing. So if you don't have everything gathered right away, that's okay. We will add that on later because things change a lot. So, and we understand that.
It reminds me of a quote that I heard from a client of ours, Sherry Koss. She mentioned the digital ink is never dry. And I always liked that thought. Like, I always liked that saying. It's stuck with me for quite a while now, where I'm like, yeah, the digital ink is never dry. You can make changes. You can do different types of things. Now, obviously, with that brand identity, you always want to make sure that you're following that brand identity and the content is cohesive and all those other components. And you want that initial build to be ready to rock. But after that, like you said, it's a living, breathing thing. This is something that's going to change over time and all those different components. So very cool. I love the shirt. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks. That's amazing.
Should be your shirt, but that's fine.
I guess, yeah. Anyways, very cool. Thank you so much for joining Cup of Joe. And if you do have any questions about the website process or any of our other processes, please reach out to info@citizen55.com and we'd be happy to support. Thank you so much.